Welcome to writingalong.com. Today's episode is all about self-realizations, really just self-understanding that can come with writing, revelations of yourself that really just become apparent and readily available for you to perceive and just be aware of and, take on further in your steps in your life, but also just as a writer, it's all connected. And I'm just here, I have a video, an episode all on how writing can serve as just kind of like this self-reflective, almost self-therapeutic way of coming to know who you are in your place in the world, that isn't really dictated by someone else. You're really, in the literal sense, dictating it yourself, thus writing, right? And so you're coming up with your own words as you put them, form them on the page. But what can you get to know about yourself? Like, what are the limits? I mean, clearly not everything, right? There's got to be certain parameters, a certain set of things you can expect, and really expect the unexpected. I don't care how cliche that sounds. I mean, you're gonna find things about you that you never would have known if not for writing, because it comes from such an unknown place. You can't exactly see it with your eyes, but it's there, and writing is like taking it out. It's like you're grabbing in them. You're saying, okay, what's there? Your eyes are closed. Pull out. Oh, it's like, and it never ends. It's like your whole life. There's this process, and it's this nice ability to have, because it's priceless to know yourself, why you do the things you do. And that's really what I want to center this video around too. One of the biggest realizations you can come to is why you do the things that you do. And that comes straightforward, just forthright from, why do I perceive these things that others probably do? I mean, you're probably not the only one in the world who's ever seen the things that you do. And I don't just mean like with your eyes, but I mean, you just kind of have a sense of certain things around you, a certain sensitivity to the world that isn't really prevalent. Like, you're not going to talk to everybody and they know what you're talking about. It just may seem like this thing that's unique to you. And in a sense it is, because it's not common, but that's the kind of stuff that you're going to realize. You may notice things about people that others don't. Some people don't, like, they don't pick up on facial features. They don't see that when they're talking to someone. Some people focus on certain features. Some people listen to certain parts of conversation. Like, they may have all the attention span in the world at the beginning and then lose everything in the middle and not hear a word. Then at the end, they like tune back in, like they know the conversation is going to end, so they start listening again. Some people listen all at the beginning and middle, and then at the end they drop off. I could arrange it however you want, but maybe you walk into a house. What do you notice? Think of it that way. I like to see it as that example. Let's say you walk into someone's home, whatever it looks like, whatever their home looks like. But we walk in, and what's the first thing you see? Answer that question for yourself. What do you notice? What's catching your eye? What's catching your attention? What are you looking out for? What are you not looking for is not really a question that you're always asking yourself, because it's kind of hard to answer. What do you not notice? But you find that you kind of filter it out by paying attention to the stuff that you do notice, and just kind of embracing that heightened sense of self-awareness, because through that's where you fill in the gaps. That's where all the blanks, all the empty parts that you don't really know what's going on there. Like, it's a part of your personality, it's a part of who you are, but you can't really define it. It's just a gray zone. There's like matter. It's part of you. Well, you can know what that is simply by noticing the stuff that you do notice. So it's very easy. It's not some complicated thing you gotta like, wizard your way into figuring out. Honestly, as a writer, you can't avoid it when you're doing this, because you are, as a writer, making observations. You even have these fictitious places that you're creating, scenarios. Maybe they're based in an image that parallels the things that you've seen, your reality, and you arrange it, you amalgamate it to however you want it to look like as a writer. But it comes from that place. And what are you pointing out? If you're describing a house now when you're writing, you walk in, what are we saying? Are we saying that we get like, oh, I looked at the tables, I looked at the ceiling, I looked at the door was important, little insignificant details, really. I mean, to the point where you may think it's absurd. You may notice someone's silverware. I've never noticed someone's silverware in my life. It just doesn't come to my mind. I don't notice it. But you might, like stuff like that, very small, like the minutia. And what are their relations? What is in common with all these things that you do notice? I can talk about myself all this whole video. I noticed this, I noticed that. I don't care. I'm not making this for me. I'm making this for you because I want you to find this for yourself as well. Ask yourself. You can comment it if you want. However you want to respond to this, write them down. What are the things you notice about people now? Now that's a big one. Not just your environment, but I mean, people are part of your environment, but they're speaking, right? That chair's not speaking, but that person that is in front of you is. Their words are coming out of them. So what are you noticing about them? Is it what physical features, what speech patterns, what uh, personality traits are standing out to you, and what? Okay, cool. Now you have a list of things that you do notice. Now, kind of understand that all of those things, they're grouped together in a sense. They inherently are, because they're the part of this collection that your mind is automatically doing. It's like a process that you never really thought of before, but your mind is constantly repeating that pattern, and it evolves and grows throughout your life. This is something I want you to notice too. The second you take charge of this, you kind of take charge of noticing the stuff within yourself, about yourself, and how you see things. You're going to notice that it changes too throughout your life. Over the years, certain things are going to become less important, but it's always kind of linear. If you have a sudden change, like sudden, you used to never notice that stuff, and now you notice all of this, it's completely different. That speaks to a change within yourself as well that otherwise wouldn't be readily apparent. Not just by looking at you, not just by looking at a picture of you, but in your mind, even more significant. You suddenly have this hyper awareness of something completely different. Your life has changed. Your life is changing all the time, and you may not know it, but you become aware of it as a writer when you're taking stock of the things that you noticed. And then asking yourself, why do I notice that? Or that's kind of hard to answer too, right? Why do I notice that? So what you can do, like I said, is group those things that you do see together and notice patterns that they arise naturally, much like everything else we've been going up to on this point and discussing at this point. It's not difficult. It's not a task you gotta hurt and experience pain over. It's really rather intuitive, and that's pretty much just the beauty of it. And again, as a writer, if you're normally writing, this happens automatically. At least the observations and being able to group them, because then you can just read off the page and be like, whoa, I was at this point in my life, I was focusing on all of this. This is the stuff that mattered to me. And now at this point, there's a little few things. Some things still do matter to me. A lot of them do, but this changed and this changed. And oh, wow. So my vision, my view of the world was really focused in this area, like in this local space. And if we're talking the globe, right? There's like one little local space that all your stuff is focused on. Your eyesight, your vision. Maybe you're just focused on your little vicinity, your little circle of people that you know. It may be just a few people, maybe a lot. You may know a lot of people, but maybe you're only focused on this little space in terms of location, like this little sphere in your town, your city, or whatever. Or you may be focused on the city as a whole, the location that you live in as a whole, but not the people. That kind of stuff is important because it tells you, oh shoot, like I'm not even really acknowledging people. What does that say about myself? What are some revelations I can take from that and change if I want to? I mean, at least I have a direction to go in now if I want to change any of that stuff. I have self-knowledge. And I'm making this episode because I don't want to just leave you off on, right to understand yourself. No, this is the stuff you get to understand. And it's really amazing because it's something you can do whenever you want at any point in your life. You take a picture of yourself every day for a year and you kind of see some changes, right? But the real changes they happen externally, but the really crazy changes that affect how you interact with and navigate the world, those are happening internally, which is crazy. And otherwise, you wouldn't readily see them just by looking at a photograph, just by looking at a picture. But writing is like a photograph of your mind. It's a photograph of what's going on, and it doesn't look like any kind of, like picture. I can't screenshot my brain, right? I could, I guess. But to really see what those connections and neural pathways make and create as a mental image that becomes perceptible to my, conscious brain, writing is the way to do that. Writing is it. You don't have to buy a test somewhere. You're like, let me get a screenshot of my mind. Like, I don't know how much that would cost if something like that was developed, right? But that's my point exactly. You're not depending on external stuff. You're getting your self-realizations and your self-understanding from yourself. And you can do that for the rest of your life through writing. Even if you don't really consider yourself a writer right now, maybe it's something that kind of interests you. I mean, you know how to spell. It's kind of a prerequisite, at least right now, right? And when I'm recording this video, you do need to know that I mean, you don't know how to spell every word, but you got to know how to type something or write with a pen, that kind of stuff, like basic stuff that if you're watching this video, I think you're on board. You have those skills already. Not very difficult to pick up even later in life. Believe it or not. So writing is your friend. Writing is your tool, and it's not just utilitarian. It's not just this brute force object. Like, let me use writing to get to know me. Like, I gotta buy it off the shelf and prescribe myself writing. It's not like that. It's something already internal that is. It's just waiting for you to be realized, and realized in the definition of utilized, like brought into the forefront of how you understand yourself and what you do understand. It really is helpful to know what you notice in the world, and by extension, what you don't notice. What are you missing out on? What are you not seeing? It's crazy, but you can see the stuff you don't see with writing. Check out on my website, How to Write a Book in 30 Days at writingalong.com, completely free, and let it sit in your inbox. You believe you can write a book. Nothing is standing in your way. It's really not that difficult. So I have a guide on my website. Go ahead and check it out. And I'll see you around. Thanks for stopping by on this episode.